Hey, everybody, welcome to the show. I'm chatting with Declan Shalvey, who is neck deep in everything right now. I'm so excited to talk about. We'll limit it to four items on the agenda for today to talk about the work that you're doing. But of course, you know him from his extensive work in both art and writing, working on stuff like Moon Knight, Aliens, Terminator, Thundercats, and of course, your original series, Old Dog, which is coming out with an anthology soon. So that's exciting. So let's get into it, man. First of all, I think the thing that everybody wants to hear about right now, at the very least, is Terminator. Because
how convenient for you to bring that up first.
How convenient is it? Is it at all? Of course, yeah. No, but I'm excited because, yeah.
You know, this turned into the DVD extra where the writers talk to each other about the same project they're working on.
Yeah, right, exactly. Like, oh man, you know, my favorite thing is Terminator.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Sal is writing a backup story in the Terminator series that I'm doing with Luke Sparrow.
Yeah, it's so exciting, and such a. It's been a long time coming. People have been waiting, and I don't know, clamoring is the right word, but certainly, you know, you hear about the launch announcement. When I saw them announce the Terminator book, there was just such a enthusiastic response from the Terminator audience, being like, "Oh my God, finally, we're getting more of this book!" And of course, because of your work on IPs that I feel like are Terminator adjacent, like Aliens. So your name makes a lot of sense to see on that.
Yeah, I mean, whenever they're doing an Avatar comic, call me up, or the Abyss comic, or whenever James Cameron licenses are coming up, give me a shout. Yeah, no, it was weird. I wasn't. I wasn't expecting it because especially from Dynamite, because we were kind of really in the weeds with Thundercats.
Yeah,
I'm planning some big stuff coming up, so. I wasn't really expecting this to come my way, but Nick Brucci, I was in the offices during a kind of a little tour I was doing, and Nick said it to me, and I was like, oh, that'd be cool. And then immediately, how would I find the time to do this? Was in the back of my mind. But I think that was really, like, I like everything you're saying. This sounds really cool. But I couldn't think when there had been the last Terminator comic that's been out. Which is always a good thing, I think. If it's like I don't know what I'll do, because nothing's been done with it in a while. I think that's a pretty good space to be in, and I love Terminator 2. I think it's a masterpiece. So I think I wouldn't have thought too much about Terminator 1, just because, like, as a kid you see the sequel and you don't necessarily go back to the first one, but But when I was talking to Nate Cosby, he was saying, like, the comic specifically is within the canon of the first film, not the second.
Right.
So first I was like, oh no, I can't do X, Y, and Z. But I went back and I watched the original film, and I realized, like, this is so up my alley. Like, it's a dark thriller, with, like, this kind of murderous, unstoppable force coming to kill, like, an extremely vulnerable woman, and how is she going to survive this? The sci-fi elements that are there are very low tech, really. Guy shows up naked. He doesn't have futuristic guns, and all the robot stuff you see, because of technology at the time, was limited, very effective, but limited. And I just thought, that's actually there's a very big opportunity to do more stuff with that, rather than the bigger, more wider sci-fi kind of lore. And I'd actually kind of been doing that with Thundercats as well. Like, I've been specifically dealing with the core idea. So basically, I was kind of doing the same thing for a new book with admittedly a very different tone, but a tone that's actually quite more up my miserable, depressing aesthetic.
Of course. Yeah, because Terminator is I love your observation about, like, how low tech it is, because at the core it allows for all of the parts that connect with the audience to be brought about. Like, there's a love story in Terminator. There is a there's a critique, or even an almost like quasi environmental message about, like, the world and about how we treat each other and about where we're headed, and at the core, it's also a fun slasher movie where there's something coming for our protagonists, and it can't be stopped, bargained with, or reasoned with. And it's just, there's all these elements that, at the core, you watch Terminator 1, and because of everything that comes after it, even if it's just Terminator 2, it's dwarfed, because you could go in so many different directions with that franchise. But Terminator 1, that first movie, it is so pure and so genuine and so true, and it has so many awesome components that they don't even really explore. Like there's because I know you're as much of a fan of it as I am. Like you watch the deleted scenes for the first movie, and like there's stuff in there that they play with in Terminator 2 that they were just like putting in there because it allowed for that much room. Like the whole Sarah being like, I'm going to destroy the company. Like I looked up the company Cyberdyne in the phone book, and like we should just blow it up. And I'm like, oh my God. Like when I found that deleted scene, I'm like, oh my God, they do it in Terminator 2. That's amazing. Like they had that idea the whole damn time. But there's so many elements to it that like you could exploit or you could elaborate on. But at the core, it's just this one simple story. And maybe there's like 1,000 like it.
I watched a really good behind the scenes documentary on Terminator, at the time. And, it's not about a robot.
Right.
Right. It's the stories about, I think that's what I put in the pitch to Dynamite and the licensor was, it's a story about human affection in the face of the impossible.
Right.
That's what makes, yes, absolutely, that cool badass robot with the glowing eyes is such a huge part of why the thing is so cool, but that's just the surface part of it. It's not what you care about, and you care about Sarah Connor, you care about Kyle Reese, and in the second one you care about her, so that's what you need to do. And I think the temptation, or I think what everyone's asking is kind of like, is that where it's going to go? But I mean, there's a reason why it went there in the following films, because that's a compelling story, but I don't think it's the only compelling story. And my feeling was, go back to the root of the story, what really matters, and you can basically do that in various scenarios. I was joking at San Diego Comic-Con on my way on the flight over. I realized it's Terminator. This is Quantum Leap from hell, like where he's jumping back to different parts of time to not to put right what was wrong, but to murder people.
Right.
But the fun of the episode. I mean, this isn't a Terminator film. These are episodic Terminator stories.
Yes. And
again, sticking with the core of what the idea was, I think is great, because you can put the machine in different scenarios that are interesting and compelling, and create new characters that are going to, show you new things, rather than I just feel that I'm not saying I would never ever tell a story about Sarah Connor or Kyle Reese or anything. I just think it's a vein that's been tapped a lot. Yeah. And if you're going to do it, you can't just kind of go straight there. You need to kind of something you need to build towards.
Absolutely. No. Well, and also I love those characters because of the stories that I know of them, and as much as it's fun to elaborate or add to, there's an opportunity here to allow their story to exist and to be the kind of bedrock for new stories that present you with as compelling or interesting characters that give you the same kind of feeling that the original movie had.
Well, there's a phrase that film people use about comics, is that it's it's like telling a story without a budget. But artists know that's not true, because the budget is time. And while you will see the T-800 in the book, I also realized I don't want to destroy Luke's life by having him draw because I draw for the covers. I'm like, man, it's a lot of
my God, that endoskeleton is very complicated, but also very specific.
It's very complicated.
If you get a detail wrong, you're going to notice, and it's like, so you got
exactly, yeah. Whereas what I think I said to him, or said to somebody, I can't remember, is for me the Terminator it's the scene in the first film where Reese is on the base, and the dogs bark, and then somebody walks in, and then you realize that's a Terminator and starts killing everybody. And it's a really cool shot of the shadows with the red eyes. That's Terminator. It's not necessarily Arnie, which is great. Don't get me wrong. I'm not putting it down, but a more chilling idea is the unknown thing that's coming for you. And it's, yes, the robot is cool, and we will show the robot, but similarly to the film, it's got those are the moments where it's coming. We all understand what it is, and we want to see it. But the thing for me, I feel like my role is, how do I torture the reader enough so that when they get that moment, it's like, yes, rather than they open up the page and it's like, oh, cool. I've joked elsewhere that I feel like being a writer is like learning how to emotionally abuse an audience, because it's what they need.
That's right. No, it's a delicate balancing act. Apropos of your building of Terminator, you're also building futuristic beloved worlds with Thundercats, and of course you've been you've done 6 issues at least of the Thundercats series, and we're looking for more. And how much fun has it been, and how does it feel? I mean, last time you and I talked, I think the first issue had debuted. So now that we're like an arc over from Thundercats, how has this experience been, and where do you hope to take the characters from here?
Well, if I can just first say that I just want to again spotlight that the artist of Terminator is Luke Sparrow, who's amazing.
That's right.
And
Yes, of course.
and the artist on your story is Colin Craker, who's also great and is coloring the main book. So I think we've got a really, really lovely, beautiful goddamn book coming out. I can't wait. But sorry, I just want to mention that. But
absolutely.
Yeah, with them Thundercats, it's weird. You just have to jump in both feet at the time, and then I thought the book would do well, and it did way better than well. To the degree now where we were talking, I think I knew it was going to be 12 to 15 issues, basically years long. And now we're talking at least 2 years. Like the book's ongoing, like it's actually ongoing now in a way which isn't as easy to get at a Marvel DC right now. You know, I guess like you're talking about big characters and big expectations, whereas with Thundercats, you know, just the reception has been so huge and the sales have been so good that basically we're safe to just, like, me and Nate and others are taking big swings, big ideas, because we have the safety net of knowing that it'll be published a year from now. We can actually deliver on, like when I did Time Before Time with Rory McConville and co. That's because it was very hard to do an ongoing book, especially at Image, but like even at the main companies. And I've managed to fallen into that book wrapped up last year, and now I've fallen into another time travel book with Terminator, and two, a book that is safely and ongoing. And so the first arc is done, and that was kind of the building blocks for what the book is. Second arc we're in at the moment, and that's very much kind of taking a look at, like, Lino isn't in it as much. I'm trying to like spotlight the other characters, but we're building to the end of the first year and shall we say further development of the Thunderverse.
Right.
That's right. Thunderverse.
Okay.
Yeah, which I just like the sound of.
It does sound fun, and it's something.
It does.
Yeah, and it's been ill explored. You know, that is such a. I mean, obviously, you know, from the origins of Thundercats being like we're selling action figures, we're making a cartoon show where we have to build out a colorful cavalcade of characters that are just, you know, ever expanding. Obviously, that show did its job of like introducing you to new characters inevitably, like over time, but implying a larger world. And there was this implication of a much more. I mean, we're talking about these characters came from one planet, they came to another planet. This planet itself is very interesting. Where they come from is very interesting. There's literally worlds of exploration at the possibility of this universe.
And there's only so much you can do in 22 pages that comes out once a month. You know, so that was, I mean, what I got straight away from people was, you're going to see this, or you're going to see that, or you're going to see X, Y, and Z. And I was like, just put all that out of your mind. We're just trying to build a cohesive, like, you know, story that makes its own sense, especially for the first arc. Like you just can't jump to mad places without establishing the characters and who they are. And that's very much what arc 1 was. Now that we're into arc 2, we're definitely kind of expanding our own lore, which of course will, you know, have nods to stuff from the past, but like we're telling our own story. But there's so much potential. I mean, that's when when I was told that Thundercats was ongoing now, and as I was rewriting the early issues, I realized there's so much places you can go here. Loads of places, more than this one book can even do. And I'm trying to deliberately hold off for a while so that I can get there in a natural, engaging way. But, you know, so in the space now we have Chitara. I think issue 2 is out. Issue 2 is out. I think issue 3 is out soon. But, you know, what Sue and Domenico are doing there, like they're doing some of the like background character development, which is great because we do not have the room. I mean, we could do it. We could do it in the main book, but it would slow things down. So now we have this great advantage of like this narrative in our book is taking place, but also now you can go back and like see where they all came from and how they knew each other. And so it's additive to the world, which we know exists from previous iterations. And we want to do the same here. So we're right now this month in the middle of launching a few interesting ideas. Issue 8 of Thundercats, I think, really literally opens up doors into where the story has been going and more stories that can come out of it. So, and I've just designed a brand new character that is going to be very significant going forward, and that's really. I was going to for a second tease, but I can't do that now. I'll get in trouble. But I'm pretty sure there's going to be a press release pretty soon talking about it.
I think it's really exciting that when we started, it was like, boy, I hope Thundercats does well. And now we're in a place where the Chitara book launching, I was like, oh my God, like hearing about the Chitara book and then being like, oh, like we're really branching out. Like not only can we move beyond a limited series and turn it into an ongoing, but also we can deepen this world and tackle different ideas and make different books, perhaps.
Yeah, like I was slightly worried. I just didn't want to go too far too fast.
Yes.
Smart. But with the massive success of the book, it would have been silly not to try something.
Absolutely.
So the Chitara was Nate's baby, basically. That's what he felt we should do next. And again, it's like I didn't write that was Sue Lee, but but like I'm in the position where I'm getting to basically oversee everything else. So I'm not writing any more books, but I'm definitely involved in how they're coming together. So there will be something to replace Chitara when that miniseries wraps in, I think it's November or something. Yeah. So that's what we're working. That's the next thing. But yeah, like I like that we're not like just trying to throw out 5 books out of anywhere. Like you want things to if there's an audience that wants it, give it to them.
Yeah.
But like give it to them in a way that's built that you don't feel like you're just trying to put your hand in their pocket.
Right.
You are putting your hand in their pocket, but in a more seductive way, in a way that you like.
Yes.
Sometimes it's nice to get your hand in the back pocket. But like you see with kind of the bigger franchises, they'll just go all in and put out 100 books of a certain type. I feel that we're building more stuff in a more natural way. That's again very, very cool because other bigger publishers, I'm not sure you'd have that much input or control. So issue 8 is definitely going to set off some dominoes for later stuff, and it's just really, really cool, and it's nice to know I have more, I have this whole playpen to work with, and now the playpen can open up. Like, it's not like we were doing, say, I'm trying to think, it's not like we're doing Superman and then all of a sudden there's 7 Superman books. Thundercats has multiple characters and a massive world outside of the main characters. So I think we're in a great position to be able to develop that stuff outside of the main book, because I don't think the audience has the patience to wait for 2 more years before I get to like what Mummer's up to. You know what I mean? Like I think, but it's not like, and again, I'm not saying it's bad. There's more Superman books. I just mean that, you can own, especially Thundercats is a team book, and the first arc really does concentrate on Lion-O, but like, and now I'm trying to broaden it. But there's only so much you can do, like I said, in 22 pages every month. So, and there's just so much material to work with. So, yeah, sorry, I think I'm just going around circles here. It's really cool. It's really exciting.
Yeah. Speaking of exciting, in October, not only is Terminator launching, I believe October 9th, but also in that same month, we're launching a new Mystique miniseries, done by written by you, and also I believe you did the cover for the first issue as well. But the art and cover are done by
artist
you.
The artist is terrible. I'm having massive problems with him. Absolute ego-driven. I'm much like Thundercats. I'm writing and drawing the cover, but with Mystique, I'm also drawing the interior story as well.
That's great,
and that is great. Like I've been working on my own book for the last year or so, and it's really cool to just come back to Marvel and be, Actually, what happened? I actually did email Tom Brevoort saying I was asking to write an X-Men book. And he offered me some possibilities, and Mystique was one of them. But the editor was kind of saying, "Hey, if you want to write an X-Men book, you could always draw too." And I've never, the X-Men book I did was X-Men Unlimited, which was great fun, but it wasn't like an X-Men, not one you can read like what I grew up
Yeah, that
on.
was a digital exclusive series. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, no, they printed the first story.
Right.
The one with Hickman, they did print that afterwards. But yeah, the whole point was that it was digital. This is an actual like X-Men in the X-Men. This is an X-Men book.
Yes.
And a friend said to me, he said, "Oh, you should totally do that." I said, "Why?" He said, "Because you can draw whatever you want." And then I was sold. So yeah, so like it's great because like you like, you know, I think I know some of the writers would be like, "Hey, can I use, I don't know, Sabretooth?" And like you can't because he's off doing X, Y, and Z. And Mystique can turn into whoever she wants. So Sabretooth's in issue 1. You know, that type of stuff is very fun. You know, I just, do I want to draw Wolverine? I draw Wolverine.
Yeah.
So from a childhood satisfaction point of view, it's completely delivering on everything. But also I actually, I mean, the book I was doing my own was Old Dog, and that was out of a love for the Marvel espionage universe and wanting to kind of do a Shield type book. But at the time, I think I was pitching a lot of stuff to Marvel, and it wasn't really going anywhere. So I just kind of said, "Fuck it, I'm just going to do my own thing in that world." Now I'm actually doing that thing at Marvel, which is great because I love doing that stuff, and now they'll pay me. So yeah, so the overall story is after post Krakoa, all the mutants are all over the place, and Nick Fury, who's kind of Shield is kind of a shuttered kind of institution at the moment. So it's got a lot less resources. It doesn't have like space cars or whatever else. So he's basically just kind of doing a lot of like file desk work to figure out what's happened to all the mutants after Krakoa, and realizes that Mystique is nowhere to be found, and that's not good. Somebody that dangerous should not. We need to have tabs on her. So he starts investigating, and it does not. It blows up in his face, literally. So yeah, that's the story. It's kind of a cat and mouse espionage story where Nick Fury Jr. is trying to track down Mystique, and she's got her own mission, which we're not entirely sure what it is right now, but she's definitely putting things into motion. And it's just great fun. It's really fun to write. It's really fun to draw. I'm doing something with issue 3 at the moment, which is I can't say what it is because it basically it's an opportunity to do something fun in a shared universe like you. There's some ways you could do it which would be very tacky, and it would be very just obvious, and the readers would be like, oh, whatever. But we're getting to do something actually very cool. Again, I'm sorry to be so bloody vague about it, but the whole point is to surprise people. But it's fun, you know, and it's fun to play with friends in a shared universe. One that I've loved since I was a kid, in a genre that is right up my alley. So no, I'm having a blast.
Great. I was looking over the first issue. It's got that great menagerie of characters behind her that she could become, that she could impersonate, or maybe she's gunning for. The implication of the first issue, or at least the cover, is with Mystique is a formidable character who kind of marches to her own drum. My question is more specifically, did you get to pick all the characters that showed up in the back, or was there any influence that said like, oh, make sure to include so and so?
Yeah, no, well, all of them in there she does impersonate. Sorry, not all of them. Some of them in there she will impersonate. And some of it was just fun. Like say Nick Fury Jr.'s in there, Sabretooth's in there, Wolverine's in there, Nightcrawler's in there, because at some point in the story she will, appear to be one of them. But I think the editor suggested Spider-Man. And he said, like, because why not? Why not? I was like, yeah, why not? I put Dupe in there just because I wanted to draw Dupe. So like some of it is definitely, planned and specific. And of course it was also strategic, like where will I put them here? I don't want to put this one right here because those two appear at the same time. Like you are trying to making like certain decisions so that like readers won't make false assumptions necessarily, although they don't know anything. So but then some of it was just for fun, like trying to think if I put in there someone else just for fun. Probably Chamber.
I was going to say Chamber was in there, and I'm like, that's a very specific choice.
yeah, because there's a Chamber, exactly. As much as I'd like to think I'm a really smart, outside the box, always innovative and thinking of amazing things, I'm also just a dumb, basic X-Men fan who just wants to draw Wolverine. So we did the big X-Men panel at San Diego, and somebody asks, what other X-Men would you like to work on? And everybody said something interesting, and outside the box, and I was just like, Wolverine.
Yeah,
So Wolverine.
It's a good choice because then, of course, you know, they hear you and they're like, "Oh, I know Declan likes Wolverine." Like as opposed to, you know, well, I know Declan's a huge fan of Chamber. Well, he's never going to get a miniseries, so I'm afraid we're just not going to have to hear any pitches about.
That's true, but I squeezed him into that X-Men Unlimited story. You know,
that's right.
You know, I squeezed in actually a lot of Generation X characters because clearly I just wanted to draw the Generation X people. But you know, this one's different. You know, like it is in a spy world, but also like, you know, there's characters that have certain emotional relevance as well.
Right.
With Mystique. So, you know, yeah, I'm going to stop on that now.
That's fair.
I don't trip over my own foot.
Exactly. But apropos of Mystique, you know, you mentioned.
I was sorry if I will also mention Matt Hollingsworth is coloring it. Like the genius is Matt Hollingsworth. Like I said to Marvel, I know this is going to sound pretentious, but I want this miniseries to be the vision of the From the Ashes line, in that like that amazing Tom King, Gabriel Volta book. Now I know I realize I sound like a total pretentious wanker at the moment, but that's what I want to do. I want to do a character piece that will just kind of be like a great Mystique story that you can read years from now within like everything that's going on with From the Ashes at the moment. And I it's great because I can play with what's there that I want to use, and I can also, it's also independent of that too. So like you don't need to be reading, you know, X-Men in order to read Mystique. Now, admittedly, a lot more people are going to read X-Men than are going to read Mystique. So, no,
right.
What I should tell people is you need to read Mystique to understand what's going on in X-Men. That's what I'm going to start telling people.
Right. But because
it's not hindered by what's going on. So I'm getting to my own story within that world, which is very satisfying.
That's exciting. Apropos of that, because of the you know, originally you wanted to do a spy anthology set in the Marvel Universe, but because of like, you know, roadblocks, you ended up creating your own whole world with Old Dog. Now you get to go back after doing Mystique. You're running out with this Old Dog anthology. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, my plan for this year was to work on Mystique and do this Old Dog anthology because I knew I couldn't do a whole new series this year if I was doing Marvel book. But I also, if I'm being honest, thought, well, a great ad for Old Dog would be a Mystique book. Similar genre, you know, similar kind of storytelling. So I'm like, look, it's win-win. I get to do this cool X-Men book, and like it could maybe help my create our own book. But I also didn't want the book to just kind of sit on the shelf for a year with nothing adding to it. So I thought, you know what? I love anthologies. Nobody, you know, not a lot of people make them. Actually, Marvel DC are doing a good few, in fairness to them. But I also like working with lots of different people, and I find it, like I said, it's fun to play in the sandbox of Thundercats or X-Men. It's also fun to have other people play in your sandbox.
Yes.
So that was appealing to me. So I just kind of got onto a lot of people whose work I really love, who I think are great. Very, you know, underappreciated people like Charles Soule. You know, like people who are well known, people who are not well known. You know, someone like Charles is a friend who's been really supportive, and I knew he'd do a really cool spy story. I wanted to see what Leonardo Romero would do, writing and drawing a story.
Yeah.
You know, I wrote a story for Matthias Bargara, like, you know, like that's in cool. A way, I get to have my cake and eat it, where I can have other people do cool stuff, and I can come in and just like, you know, write a story that somebody else can draw. So it's essentially like 9 super spy stories featuring Old Dog and Retriever. If you haven't read the main book before, I don't think it's a problem because it's just anthology stories. But you know, if you do like it, you can go pick up the trade and learn more about what's been going on. But yeah, I have I'm trying to think who else is on it. Luke Sparrow, who we're doing Terminator together. Actually, I thought of him for Terminator when we did this story. I thought when Nate came to me, I'm like, this guy would be perfect. So that's how that happened. So yes, if you're interested in Terminator or Mystique, try Old Dog anthology. But I'm trying to think of who else is on it. Sumi Kesgan, who did Voyages for Image. Chris Sprouse. I got Chris Sprouse doing a story. I'm coloring that today, and it's actually so cool because I get to zoom right in on these beautiful like Chris Sprouse pages inked by Dexter Vines, and I get to color it. So again, I'm having my cake and eating it in so many ways. But I don't forget anybody else is working on it. My mind's going blank at the moment. But yeah, it's really, really fun. I'm really, really happy with it. And again, I'm glad to get another installment of the story out while I'm kind of doing my mainstream gig. You know, so once Mystique is over, I'll go back to Old Dogs to put something out next year. But you know, I just didn't want more than a year between stories. You know.
Yeah, no. Talking off mic, I mean, you are busy. You are a busy guy, and adding to your plate would be disastrous at this point.
That's it. Like I didn't want to abandon it while I'm doing something else, but also like I kind of wish I did, because it's even like, so there's an 8-page story by me, which is enough work, you know, on top of everything else. But like putting everything else together and making those decisions, like Heather Antos has been the editor on the book, but like there's certain things she can't decide. It's up to me because it's my it's my project, you know. So that's been a lot of work and putting that all together. So it's more work than, and maybe I knew it was going to be this much work. It's definitely less work than doing a whole 64-page story on my own.
Yes.
But it's a way for me to basically try and, you know, tell more story, and hopefully while it wasn't planned that way, it certainly worked out that way. I have these 2 big projects coming out the month afterwards. So, you know, maybe the creator owns and work for hire can help each other, you know.
Right, exactly. Do you have a target date in mind for this anthology's release?
Yeah, it's out. It's out in September 26th. I think I'm wrong. I don't think that's it. It's October 20 something. God damn it! I should have this written down. But so it's out like 2-3 weeks before Mystique.
Okay, great.
So
all right,
you can order it now. The FOC is a week and a half away. So yeah, you can order it now. Like there's a tease for both books.
Yeah,
and it's out late September ahead of the other books.
The last time you and I talked, Daredevil was on your mind. Any progress on that Daredevil front?
Maybe. I think I talked to somebody in San Diego, and I made a very
impassioned plea.
Yeah, well, it wasn't a plea because I mean, I don't really know what happened at the end, because it wasn't like that they said no. It just kind of, you know, I think COVID hit, and you know, a lot of stuff kind of got turned upside down. So I would say I met an editor at San Diego and had a big chat about very possibly doing it next year.
Yay! That's great.
But who knows?
Well, it's comic books. You never know. Like it could be
exactly. Yeah, because I had to talk with somebody else as well about doing something pretty big, which would be cool. So I would say what's definitely going to happen next year is once I wrap on Mystique at the end of the year, I'm going to go back and do an Old Dog novella, like same format as. So I'm not sure if we got into this last time, but you know, Old Dog, I did it as 6 issues, and like the schedule caught up with me by issue 3, and there was a bit of delay, and I realized that the monthly grind, if you're trying to write and draw and color a book on your own, maybe is not the best way to put a book out.
Fair enough.
So what I'm going to do going forward is, well, which is why actually I mean, hopefully this anthology will do well, because it's basically that format I want to go with. I want to put out a 64-ish, 40 to 60 page novella, one shot. As its own thing. So instead of like Old Dog episodes, they're like Old Dog TV movies or whatever you want to.
I love that.
Know.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so every maybe twice a year, put one of those out, something like that. And that way I can work. I can also do bigger mainstream stuff in between. Like if I do Old Dog, if I do a 130-page book, that's it for the, it's pretty much my year. But if I do like a 40-page story, I can put that out, and then I can work on another one alongside. Let's just say I got to do Daredevil. That's not something you can chip away on in the same way. So that's my goal, is next year to do a Marvel DC thing, significant project, and an Old Dog novella. So that if I can be putting out an Old Dog novella every year, that means I can build those up as trades as I go.
Right.
I just think it's the best way to do it. If I brought out Old Dog issue 7, it's just going to sell less than issue 6. But if I kind of reboot the format, I'm hoping maybe that it'll be something a new reader can pick up every time, rather than, I think if people see issue 7 or 8, they're like, well, maybe I'll pick up the trade and then not do it. So
Exactly.
that's my goal. Well, I mean, look, I don't know. I don't know if that's the case. Like, look, I don't know if Old Dog's selling better yet, because, you know, the way things work in numbers and receipts and whatnot.
Right.
I'm certainly hoping Thundercats has helped Old Dog, and I'll hope Mystique will help Old Dog. I have no idea if they will or not. We'll see. But I want to do more of it. But I still love all the superhero stuff. So if I'm in a place where I can do like a Mystique, write and draw a Marvel DC character miniseries, and do Old Dog, if that's what my life is from now on, brilliant. You know, because I also get to write all this cool stuff like sorry, your specific question was about Daredevil. I made about Old Dog. Sorry, but I think that if I was able to do that, that would give me the flexibility to be able to do stuff like that too. You know,
right, exactly.
If I'm trying to think if a Winter Soldier miniseries came up or something, you know, something like a character of it. If I could do it, if Marvel DC say like, here's a character, do you want to do a story, write and draw it? Cool, I can do that, and I can do my own thing on the side, and that way I'm constantly, you know, building both my own work and work at the bigger publishers, but also like, you know, also never getting too pissed off with creator owned, because I'll take a break and do the mainstream thing, and never getting too pissed off with the mainstream thing because I can take a break. Like my career has been really great since it's kind of accidentally turned into that. Where I'm balancing work for hire and creator owned. At the moment, I'm a little bit too work for hire, probably. Everything's work for hire, aside from the Old Dog anthology. And I have a creator owned book I really want to do, but finding the time is tough. Whereas 2 years ago, I was doing Old Dog and Time for Time.
Right.
And Alien was the book I was doing on the side, you know, as opposed to.
Like,
so it's
like
weird. Things have flipped. Yeah, so things have flipped on the other side of the moment. So I want to make sure I'm getting back into some creator-owned space.
Yeah, well, and recognizing that I think is a really important factor, because, you know, it ebbs and flows. You know, some days you're working on more of this, some days you're working on more of that. So I mean, I think you're in the right. You're in a healthy place.
Something like Terminator is great, because like I feel like I'm getting to do a creator-owned book, because like,
exactly,
like we said, like we talked about the restrictions, but once you work within the restrictions, it's actually really, really cool. You get paid to do it, and you get to work and I get to work with great people. So like, yeah, you know, it's great. It's perfect. I guess I don't want to blink and then realize I've just been doing license work for 4 years and not doing my own thing. So I always want to be, and also, you know, I don't want to be. Some people I think just get really pissed off with when they're just doing work for hire stuff.
Yes, because
there's limitations on that stuff, and I totally understand. But like, my way around that is to always do something where, you know, okay, I can't. There's certain things I can't do in Thundercats, although so far everything's been fine. But like, if I ever get annoyed with those limitations, then I have Old Dog where I can do anything I want.
Anything.
So yeah. I think it's a good place to be creatively, where you don't feel too jammed up in one way, but also creator on site is just labor intensive. Not that the work for hire isn't, but in a very different way. So sometimes, you know, having a safe space away from one for a little while is good, you know.
Absolutely. You mentioned novellas, and it got me thinking about something that I've been lamenting for a number of years now, and it's I'd like to get your opinion on the benefits, or maybe your preference. We've seemed to have strayed away, at least in mainstream comics, particularly the big two, from an idea that I think really works, and I think the audience has had enough time, not unlike the Predator franchise, where, or I'm sorry, the Terminator, Alien, Predator, Terminator. Those are my three big loves. But the Terminator franchise, where it's like there's been enough time for that franchise in comics to cool off, so that now there's some enthusiasm again. In this case, I feel like this format has kind of cooled off in a big way, and so I think there might be some enthusiasm as well. The original graphic novel and Marvel and DC, I feel like there is something really, really beneficial to storytelling, to characters that maybe lend themselves better to that format. Do you agree? And and have you felt that in your own work, where you're like, you know, this is fun and it could work as a mini series, or as a, you know, as some kind of a concept, but we should have just done it as a 120-page graphic novel?
I mean, yes and no. I mean, if I was running Marvel, which hasn't happened yet, but, no, I mean, I'm very much of the mind of like, you know, if I was running Marvel, I would put out Marvel Knights books. I would do a line of Marvel Knights books with like newer creators who do interesting spins on the stuff. I think that's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
But how will they perform? Big question mark. How will anything perform? How will the safest books going right now perform? You
Fair.
don't know. So you need Amazing Spider-Man to come out every single month, no matter what. You know.
Yes.
So people talking about like how things should just be miniseries or just be digital now, I think is a little naive. Because you know, having done my own work as well, and like you see the actual money behind things, you know, like Thundercats is doing really well, so we can put out more of the book. If it wasn't doing well, then it would be a miniseries.
Yeah.
You know, it depends on the story, it depends on the creators. Like, but like original graphic novels. I mean, to be fair to Marvel, I think they did try it a while. They were trying them a while ago, and they just
they did a couple.
From what I understand.
I agree. Like there was
but I mean, I don't think it's a reason to never try it again. It was
exactly
year one, but yeah, there was a Hulk
Earth
one and
thinking about the season.
No, that's DC.
One.
Season one, that was it. Yeah.
Yeah, Doctor Strange,
so, I mean, that was
Spider-Man.
They did try those, and from what I understand, it didn't sell too well. Not that I know for sure. But like I think so. That's my kind of like no, but my yes is that depending on the story. There should be different types of formats for different readerships, like
exactly.
You know, those compact comics and
yes,
those new collections they're doing at DC.
Yep,
it's great. I think Marvel were doing a good job there for a while, where they were taking some of their I remember Spidey was a regular series, and then they brought them out as those kind of more manga sized books,
Strange
and they
Academy
seem to be doing really well.
Thing. Yeah.
Yeah, Strange Academy. I think I remember talking to Scotty when he was starting that, and I was making the argument, which he was already on board for, was putting out a regular a monthly book and then using that to create a line of books in another format. Now, I have no idea how those went when he told me the idea. I was like, that's a great idea. You should totally do that.
I agree.
But I mean, but while, like I said, I would do that Marvel Knights book, I don't know if it would sell. It's hard to justify to the company, like, what, you know, you've editors pitching the most mainstream books you could think of that aren't selling, getting approved because, you know, so it's our selling. Yeah. So it's hard to say, but I think definitely the readership is fractured, you know, in a good way and in a bad way, because we don't have those big tentpole hits anymore. Well, it's not necessarily true. There's Thundercats, there's the Ultimate stuff seems to be doing great. Like, there are breakthrough stuff, but you know, we can't expect companies to take chances on stuff when the mainstream stuff is kind of being wobbly. People forget that, like, you know, so many authors don't make any like, they don't sell books, they don't make a profit, but because Stephen King sells so much, publishers will take chances on stuff, you know. And it's the same in comics. Like, if the mainstream books are doing great, then they can take big swings. And it's hard to argue for big swings, but at the same time, my feeling was, like, with the Marvel Knights stuff they did back in the early 2000s, that was because they were desperate. And they did something weird and crazy, and they've been profiting off it ever since. So, yeah, you know, there's basically two completely opposite arguments for this stuff. And the artist in me, it will say, this is what you should do. And then the person who sees how the money comes in and how you facilitate making these books sees the other side of it. So I think stronger mainstream companies that are still willing to take big swings also helps create their own books, because it gets people indoor. Like, there's, you know, I don't want to be like, you know, support the companies, but like, it's just where we are as an industry. Is when those bigger companies are doing better, it kind of raises the tide for all boats. But we are in a strange place in a readership where everything's fractured as regards, you know, I don't like reading digital. You love reading digital. You want to read manga format. You want to read single issues. Like, you know, there is not only not just a range of like mediums, genres, but also mediums. Yeah. Knowing what your audience is, I guess, and also being willing to invest in that audience, because I think it seems to me the bigger audiences right now are young and trying out different types of stuff, and, you know, companies could be finding a way of doing more Strange Academy type stuff. But like, if you give me 10 Deadpool books, I'm not going to buy all of them. I'll probably pick one or two, you know, because I think we're noticing that in a lot of ways now, especially with like streaming and whatnot, choice is infinite. and you don't listen to everything. You know,
No.
I just think about today. I used to love metal in college, and I've barely listened to a metal album. I could throw on one right now with Spotify. So it's tough. Like the audience has kind of it's broader, but it's also much more specific and kind of cut off. And I mean, yeah, I think someone needs to figure out a way to like sell the right book in the right format to the right audience, and not just. I mean, yes, we need tentpole hits, so put out the single issues. There's been attempts, and you and I can say this is what they should do, and then find out like, oh, they did actually, and it was a huge disaster.
Well, that's the thing, right?
We don't know.
Yeah, well, and I know, we know that there are examples, and we know that like those who have attempted them or were there when they were attempted would say, well, we tried it already. And it's like, well, just because you tried something once in a particularly different environment doesn't mean that it doesn't work. It just means that it didn't work then. And it doesn't mean that it, like, you know, the approach was the right way. It could have been any number of things. Like it could have been an election year. It could have been, you know, just the format wasn't right, or the coloring was wrong, or there were too many of them at the same time, or there was a movie out at the time. Like there's any number of environmental factors that factor into why.
Yeah, I think people don't take for granted that like timing is everything. You know,
it's true, so true. Yeah.
You know, like if Saga came out now, it wouldn't be the smash that it was.
Hell no.
When it happened, you know,
it isn't a smash to say it is. Like, because like, of all those delays, right? Like the Saga doesn't sell the way it used to sell because of all
but like
delays.
how many issues have they done? I mean, like I fucking hate anybody like complaining about a delay on Saga. I'm like, you try to.
That's fair.
Like, if the exact same book, issue 1 of that came out now, it wouldn't do the same numbers, and it's nothing to do with the quality. It's where the zeitgeist is. It's where the conversation is. It's where how people are feeling. It's the economy. It's you know, loads of different reasons. So like I think timing, like some books came out at the wrong time, didn't hit. Some books which were better or worse came out at the right time and did great. I'm not saying Saga's not great, don't get me wrong.
Of course.
But like so much of it, and you can put all the work. Look, same with Old Dog. I thought Old Dog would do better than it did because I was writing and drawing it, and everyone told me, because I was writing some stuff, they said if you write and draw, it's gonna be a smash. And it did about the same as Time Before Time, which did well, don't get me wrong, but like I was expecting more.
Yeah.
If it had come out a couple of years earlier, probably done way better. Or if it came out now, worse. So it's very hard to gauge this stuff. But like all you can but what are you going to do? Stop making stuff?
You can't.
You know, you can't. No, because you're going to need something to be the next smash. Like I think creator-owned books aren't selling where they were 10 years ago, and you could say, well, you know, like so it's a choice. It's a deliberate choice on my part to do more work for hire in the last year because I went all in creator-owned. It didn't hit as much as I was hoping it would, but I mean, I'm satisfied. I'm happy. Don't get me wrong.
Exactly.
But if it had gone better, I would have invested more in creator-owned on top of what I was already doing.
Right.
At the moment, I'm basically trying to see where Old Dog goes because I have invested in that. I'm hoping the book will sell in the next year with all this more mainstream stuff, and I can get back to it. So it's a choice. It's a deliberate choice on my part. And everyone's going to have to make the choice. But I also think now is probably a very good time to get a creator-owned book together for 6 months from now. Who knows where things are going to be? And you could be the next hit because a lot of people are probably not doing that because they feel like there's nothing.
It's a bad environment. Yeah.
In it. Again, now this is just me talking to you. I haven't. This isn't information I've gotten from anywhere else. It's just my feeling.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's the
Yeah. It's just my feeling. Like I feel like I should be investing in my next creator-owned because by the time because what will happen is things will come around and then there'll be all these hits and then everyone's going to be scrambling to do a new book, but you don't know where things are going to be 6 months after that. So I think you know, you got to be making things. You know, you can't expect success to come from nowhere. You got to keep building. And you know, you get your heart broken every time something doesn't come out the way it will. Like I've no idea what's Mystique going to do. I've no idea.
No, that's true.
I'd like to be a smash hit, and then Marvel go, "Oh my god, we need to let this guy do everything he wants to do." Or would it be a total moderate book where, you know, I can't get another project off the ground in a similar way? There's no way to know this stuff. Yeah. All you can do is just make the best book you possibly can and hope for the best.
That's right. That's right. Regardless, and you can't. Yeah, and like Terminator. Before we jump into Terminator, really quick before we wrap up, I wanted to ask, when are you going to see Alien Romulus, and how excited are you for this movie?
I don't know, man. I haven't seen Deadpool Wolverine yet.
Really? Oh man.
Yeah. Well, it came out when we were in San Diego, and I got COVID, so then I
Oh,
was
that
in
ruined a
bed for a
week or
week,
two. Yeah.
and then family member was in hospital, so I couldn't. I promised them I'd see the film with them, so I couldn't. So I don't know if I will get to see it now at this stage. So no offense to Alien fans, but Romulus is second after Deadpool Wolverine.
Deadpool Wolverine.
Also,
yeah.
Also, I'm a total scaredy cat. Like I might just wait. I might just wait till it's on streaming, because I don't know if I'll be able to handle seeing it in the cinema. I'd probably. I don't know. I don't know if I'll handle it, because it really does look great. It looks really.
It does,
really
but it's made by the same dude from Evil Dead. So I'm like, you're right. You're right about the scare factor.
It looks very scary. Again, that looks very scary. I don't think I can. Yeah, I don't.
It's a combination of things, because I don't care for that kind of horror. Like I didn't see I didn't see the new Evil Dead movies in theaters, because I'm like, no, I don't need to be that horrified. But I love the Alien franchise. So I'm like, well, I've seen every new Alien movie since Alien Resurrection. I've seen in the theater, and I can't not see it. But also,
yeah,
if it's really scary.
yeah.
Like, will my fandom outweigh my timidness? I don't know.
Well, the way it looks to me is very much what I was trying to do with the Alien book, which was like have a very distinct visual look to it. You know, be very atmospheric, and that looks like what this film is. Look, it looks so like aesthetically. I think it's hitting all the beats for me. I mean, look, the only way to know is to actually watch the film. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll take a deserved day off and see them both. See Deadpool Wolverine. It'll be very different.
Oh, it'll be whiplash. Yeah, you might want to see Alien first. That way you can just like laugh.
Actually, yeah, that's a good point. Right, but no, yeah, it looks stunning. Yeah,
yeah.
I'm personally more interested in the Noah Hawley TV show that's in the works.
I'm very excited.
Just because I love what Noah Hawley does. And I think it's going to be like, I like that film looks like the thing that it should be, but I think the TV show is going to be something more that I'll find more interesting. Yes. But again, that's two different types of stories that one's not better than the other. I'm glad that they're both being kind of farmed out.
I'm actually kind of like impressed with the studio for allowing there to be two completely different alien things happening in the same space. You know, like we're getting a movie that's a completely different tone, theme, concept, and a show, and they're both being worked on at the same time. I'm like, wow, that's kind of cool, because normally, you know, like with creative overlords, usually they're like, oh, we infamously, there's like the bad embargo. Oh, if there's a Robin over there, you can't be over here. If they're making a villain over here, you can't. You know, with Alien, it's like, no. If people are willing to pay to see a movie / show, let's just make them. But then you run the risk, of course, of being like too much. You know, you don't want it. And then there's an animated series.
Yeah, but I think, but what that series is going to be, what, 8-10 episodes or whatever. And this film, like, there hasn't been an Alien film in a long, long time. Like, I know, I know there has been with Covenant and whatnot, but this feels
like true to form. Yeah. I'm excited.
Yeah. So I think there's enough. I think the audience is hungry enough that they'll go. I mean, there's a fair argument. You'd be like, well, don't give them to pick one or the other, and that's actually a very valid argument. But
absolutely.
I think these two things will be so different. It's not like you're doing a TV show of the movie where you're going to pick one or the other. Right. Like I'd watch that Alien film. I don't know the director, but I like the look of the Alien film. I'm going to watch the Alien show because it's Noah Hawley, because I like Noah Hawley. So those are two very different reasons for me to watch both things.
Totally. Terminator 1 drops October 9th. I'm thrilled, not just because my name is going to be on it in somewhere, probably on the back, but because I'm hip.
If I have it my way, it'll be at the back, at the bottom.
It'll be on the back, squeezed, on the bottom, small.
Yeah. My name will be massive, like, totally squashing your name down. That's.
I'm thrilled because I love your direction. I love your pitch, and I know how much, like, you love the franchise and and the movie itself and the world, and that it's not just about telling, it's not about putting your stamp on it. It's about telling a really good story that uses this, these tools to tell it. And that I know it's going to be authentic and honest and true and cool. And so I'm just excited. I can't wait to read it, honestly.
I'm just dying for more pages to come in. I'm the same.
Luke Sparrow's art is it's just great. I'm really excited to see, how that.
Are you going to be at New York Comic Con?
Of course, yes. I'm always there.
So he'll be there. So we'll all be there the week after the book comes out. So
Oh my god, that'll be weird. I did not think about that. My actually, just as a quick, very like back padding thing, one of my comic book store owners reached out to me and he's like, "Would you like to do a signing?" And I was like, "Oh, I've never. That's really nice. Yeah, so
It's pretty cool.
that'll be cool. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool." Oh yeah, I'll go. Oh yeah, no.
Cool.
Hell, we do it for just my silly YouTube channel, but I would do it for this comic book. You kidding me? Yeah.
Yeah, that's great, man. I mean, like, look, like we were saying before, like enthusiasm and like like positivity in this industry is kind of always frowned upon. And it's great when stuff is actually coming out and get happy and excited about things. So yeah, that's great, man. Like signings are great. I love doing them.
Oh yeah, no, I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled, and I'm just excited to read it. So, folks, make sure to pre-order your books, but make sure to check out more of Declan Shalvey. Is there like a website that they can just go to get all of their Declan Shalvey needs?
Sure. There's a declanshalvey.com, which conveniently enough is my website, and you can subscribe to my newsletter on there, where every 2 weeks I'll talk about what I'm working on. Sometimes it was like I had a code name for Terminator. What I was working on it was like Project Network and nice. Skynet Network. Huh? So I'll do that sometimes as a way of talking about a thing that I can't talk about.
Right.
But yeah, so everything I'm working on, like I'll talk about how I did the lettering draft on this, or I'm writing the X, Y, and Z, or I'll tend to maybe show Thundercats covers before anyone has seen them.
That's cool.
There might I showed the cover for Terminator 2 on there before it's listed. So I'll do little things like that where you get to see things before they come out.
That's fun.
With the code of trust, they're understanding that no one's going to share it around.
Yeah, please.
But yeah, so every 2 weeks I'll talk about, I have a very dense newsletter talking about everything I'm working on and art drops or notices about commissions or anything like that. So I'd recommend you check that out.
Nice. Check it out, folks. The link in the description below this video, and make sure to check out everything that's coming out from Declan Shalvey this year. It's a ton of stuff. I'm really excited. Declan, thanks for being here, man, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks for having me, man.
So long, everybody.